right, so good afternoon. I just want to welcome everyone to our webinar. I am Garen Stout. I am the Director of Client Success for Oasis Solutions, and thrilled to have all of you all attending today. Also, we have on the phone who's going to be doing our webinar for us is Greg Swallow. Greg is with Knowledge Sync. And even though he doesn't look like it, he brings 30 plus years of hands-on sales and marketing experience in the sales if I could speak, representative and professional distribution environment. He's worked on hands-on with resellers and channels on North America, building and maintaining strategic relationships. He's a reoccurring speaker and thought leader on ERP publishers, trade shows, and industry events across North America. So thrilled to have him on the webinar today to discuss Sage Alerts and workflows. We do have the chat open, so if you have questions or things that come up during the webinar, feel free just to put those in the chat session, and we'll be happy to answer those at the end of the webinar.
Thanks, Karen. It's good. Greg Swallow speaking. Thanks very much. Good morning, good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining me today. Can I just get a confirmation that you can hear me okay? Everything good?
Yes, good.
Oh, perfect. Thank you. Thank you. Good stuff. Well, thank you very much for everyone's joining, and thank you for Oasis Solutions for hosting this. I hope you find it useful and thought-provoking in your business as we talk about actionable insights, 10 ways to improve your business. So, excellent. There we go. So actionable insights, 3 value propositions that I want you to think about and take away as I'm talking here for the next 45 minutes is automate the detection of critically needed information. So you know 75% of what you need to know, automate the delivery of that information, and automate the process of acting on that information. So think about Sage Alerts and workflows doing that, detecting, delivering, and actions moving forward. So what is Sage Alerts and workflow? Alert flow is a solution that automates if then do this, right? So think about it. If something happens in your business, if something happens, then what do you want it to do? What action do you want it to take? What trigger do you need it to move? What document needs to be processed, or what communication needs to go out to a customer or a vendor or an employee moving when something happens in your business? So if this action happens or condition happens, then I want to do this. Let's use the software to do that. And so that you have, we'll call it a smoke detector for your business, the employee that's silent and just yelling out at you from your solution, but some way that's a communication out to someone is Sage Alerts and workflow. So for an example, and I'm going to get into some deeper ones, but if a new order comes in, then send an invoice to the client, right? Because if this happens, then do that. If a PO needs approval, then notify the CFO. If a client has an overdue an invoice, then put them on credit hold. So you see that process of if this, then do that. Think about that in your business processes throughout the course of the day as I go through the 10 different examples that we will shortly. But that's the premise of Sage Alerts and workflow. It's sitting on the database, and if it sees that condition happening, it triggers an event. It triggers an action. It triggers a report to be generated. And this also worked for HRMS. So on board our conversation daily, we may have people with Sage 300, 100, HRMS, FAS, CRM products from Sage, or maybe other solutions around your enterprise that run on SQL databases that we can interact with. But if you're in the HRMS space, if you hire someone, then send the employee onboarding. And that works for when you offboard someone too. In different states, there's about 18 different transactions that you have to deal with or file on behalf of employees onboarding and offboarding. Let's make sure those are done in the appropriate amount of time. So as we go through our conversation, think of the process of Sage Alerts and workflow, if then do that. What are the benefits of it? If then you do that, it saves you time. So Instead of having someone work in your organization having to react to something and deal with something, and maybe it's not right, their critical thing right to do right now, we can have the software do. It saves you time, it makes you more responsive, it increases your knowledge. So those are the things that are going to happen when you onboard Sage Alerts and Workflow. So in your mind right now, I want you to just keep a tally as I go through some different scenarios of what you could use the solution for in your daily process. So first one is forms delivery. Do you have to deliver quotes? Maybe the quotes have to be delivered to certainly the customer, maybe the sales manager, maybe the salesperson all need a copy of the quote. Perhaps finance needs it, perhaps engineering needs it, perhaps shipping needs it. Someone in your organization is responsible delivering it. Let's have that software do it. We deliver invoices every 30 days. Why not have the solution just auto generated on the appropriate time to attach a crystal report or SSRS report of that invoice and send it to the appropriate finance team? Every 60 days, maybe we want to send out a statement. Every 90 days, we want to send out a statement. And perhaps at the same time we send the customer the statement, we send the salesman a statement saying, hey, look, this customer of yours is now into 60 days in AR problems. And maybe at 90 days, we want to put the salesman, the customer, the sales manager, and put the customer on credit hold at the same time when that statement gets to 90 days, and then start the dunning notices going out. So those are just forms deliveries that each company that's on this line is dealing with. Why can't we use the software to help deliver those? Picking list, packing list, receipts, transfer, physical counts, purchase orders, returns, all the different forms that you generate on a daily basis within your organization with any of the Sage products. You can use Sage Alerts and Workflow to deliver those in a timely manner. And those can be delivered to an individual, to a group of people, to a both internally and externally of your business walls. Do you dealing with exception management? Do you have run into reports identifying exceptions within your business? Everybody wants to have their business run. It's chugging along, everything's doing what it's supposed to do, but what do you do with those exceptions? Maybe we want to call those things out. Hey, the shipments, we order that we got in, there was a line item on that order that said, if you can ship this on Thursday, ship in this pack configuration. If it ships on Friday to arrive Saturday, ship in this pack configuration. Why is that important? Because on Friday, they have a fork truck driver who can move that pallet. But on Saturday, they only have hand bombers to move the product off the truck. So it's important when we see things that come in on orders or variables changing within our customer experience that we call those out. Perhaps it is back to, hey, my customer hasn't paid the bill, so on their next order, let's make that COD, or let's change something in that buying habits that we want to call out. So think of the margins that are taken from your customer. Maybe you've offered a 10% discount last month on sales to get rid of some old stock, and now this month they're trying to take that same discount. You may want to still accept that discount, but why not let's call that out and let the salesperson know so they can contact the client. So think of it as a communication portal, and that we don't get to the end of the month and going like, if we'd only known, we could have saved that customer experience. We could have changed the outcome of what happened, if you will, by knowing what was coming inbound and looking for variable changes. So exception notices with anything to do with the data around the ERP or HRMS system, we're looking at and looking for changes that you need to call out to bigger stuff. There's maybe the shipping needs to know, maybe finance needs to know, maybe sales needs to know. So let's notify them right away based on when that order comes in. And then perhaps you're dealing with time responses. We're having a hell of a time right now with trying to get shipments going because of freight cost and because of delays in the supply chain. Maybe you do get orders with order by date, cancel by date, ship by date. Maybe you're allowed to do fill and kill, where you get an order for 100, but you only have 90, so you're not allowed to create that back order for 10 sort of idea. Maybe there's renewal dates, approval dates, request dates. anything that's a time stamped that you need to call out and to be aware of. This must ship by this date because it's going to a cross dock to go into a shipping container to go, internationally, for example, or it needs to go into a different truck that's going across state lines. All those things are time responses that you need to call out. Well, who needs to know? Maybe shipping, but they don't want to know today when it's happening. Maybe we take a list of all the events that are going to happen tomorrow and tee them up in the morning so that they know what they're going to be dealing with that next day. Perhaps at the end of the day, we want to have a report of what we hit and what we didn't hit on time responses so that we can get better at it. So every time that you're seeing an order or process going through, whether you're sending a purchase order out to your vendor and he's being delayed on receiving the goods to you, well, how is that going to affect what your sales are going to happen? If you don't have the products to fulfill those orders, then you're delayed. Maybe you need to call your customers and say, hey, we're going to be delayed by 10 days or whatever the number is. But time responses, so people aren't waiting for what's going to happen. We're allowing the software to generate that out. And as I say, we can do it not the day or the moment it happens, but we can look through the database and say, hey, these are the events that are going to happen this week. These are the promise dates that we're going to make a shipment happen. These are when we're going to complete a job. These are when we're going to move from one part of the building process to the next part of the building process. We're going to notify the customer that this has happened along the way. So time responses can be used internally and externally to your customer communications. And then perhaps you're doing threshold monitoring. So again, back to our freight challenges, we send out a purchase order to a vendor. The vendor sends back his invoice. His landed cost has been exceeded because he's now paying additional freight costs. Well, how does that affect all my orders internally within Sage? Let's run a report and show me all the reports that have that line item that are associated with it. And what did I sell it for against my gross margin of what's my landed cost against now? So I have visibility what's going to happen. That's a threshold. What are the other things that we could build thresholds or show me all the customers that have taken a discount in the last 90 days. Show me the salesperson that's given that discount in the last 90 days greater than 10%. Tell me the number of calls that we produced in the territory or the customer. Tell me the last time that customer's actually ordered. Tell me the next time the customer has lowered the quantity of ordered versus what they've ordered last time they processed an order with us, greater than or less than 5%. So there's all kinds of different thresholds that we can set up based on the way that you set up your customer relationships, that you want to know when those variables are changed, an alert goes out. And that alert may go to finance, it may go to the salesperson saying something's changed in the buying habits or the conditions of my customers. Let's be aware of that. Again, this information you will find in the course of time, but if we can give it to you in real time when it's happening, when this process is happening, think of what you could do from a business point of view, from an exchange with your customers. And then you have assignments and approvals, right? Everybody has, I'm only allowed to buy something up to $5,000, but then I need someone to approve anything over $5,000. Who's going to get that? Let's send them an alert and saying, hey, you've got an order sitting on your desk that needs to be approved. Hey, engineering, you have a drawing that needs to be approved for this purchase order to be fulfilled. Hey, shipping, you need to order a particular truck or pallet size to get this shipment out in the order. So anything that has assignments and approvals within the life cycle of the order, within the life cycle of a quote, we want to be able to look at and monitor for you. So if something's fell with outside the walls of those parameters, that we're sending an alert out to the correct recipient along the way. So assignments and approvals as the life cycle of your business. And then maybe you do enterprise-wide auditing. You have multiple silos of data within your organization. You have your ERP, you have your HRMS, you have a CRM system, you may have a SQL database holding other data that are appropriate to you. It could be drawings, it could be, any type of business process that you need. Let's look at all the databases holistically across the board and say what's changed, what's different. And this is something that some customers do on a weekly basis because I've changed my credit limit of that customer in finance. Maybe HR doesn't know that, or maybe my CRM doesn't know that. I have an employee that's changed his criteria. Now they can operate a Fort truck, plus they are WMIS responsible, so they can deal with hazardous goods. So they can now be utilized in another part of the business. Those type of information, when needs to be shared, not held in a silo within the organizations where you're hoping that word of mouth, that information will transpire. If something changes and you need to know that a price has changed, an item has changed, a drawing has changed within your system, a customer is put on credit hold, anything like that, let's notify the other applications and let's notify the employees that wrap around those applications so that they know. So using enterprise-wide auditing allows that you're not holding on to a particular part of the data cycle within your own entity, that you're sharing that information. And you're not holding yourself responsible for sharing it. You're using the software to know that everyone's been shared and other systems have been updated with that new information. And then reports. Every company runs on reports, right? Because everything runs on Crystal. So who gets those? Whose job is it to create those reports and send those reports? So we've got everything from my day-end sales. What are my quotes generated for the day? What are my expected shipments for today? What are the expected shipments for the month or for the week? What are these reports? Who's responsible for generating them and who needs them? The problem, the challenge with reports is sometimes the reports that we're sending out within our organizations are huge and no one really has the time to dig through them and find what's particular to me. And we're going to call those the needle of the haystack. Using Sage Alerts and Workflow, we can take the specific pieces of data that are unique and interesting to you and send you those. So we don't have to give you the whole report. We just give you the part that's important to you. And each person that signed up for an alert can have their alerts tailored to them. So some things that are important to me in finance may not be important to the person in shipping and vice versa, or manufacturing. So we want to be able to use the alerts and the report distributing both internally and externally, that we're getting the right data to the right person at the right time. So all the different reports that you're generating over the course of the day, all of you are at some point in time, let's use the software to notify that something's been ordered or inventory has been replenished within our system or a job has moved down the line or what have you. There's so many different reports that you can run through Crystal or SSRS or other Sage reporting tools that we want to make sure that we're distributing them and the right information. And then data cleansing, there's, back to, hey, we've got lots of different databases out there in our organization, but is the data similar? Some things have greg.swallow@knowledgesync as your email address. Some just have swallow as knowledge sync. So why don't we do a comparison of all the different systems as well and make sure that things are complete? Let's look through the database and do a scrub and tell me what's missing. Are people's emails missing within my CRM? Are people's addresses not complete in my ERP? Do I have duplicated addresses? Do I have the right zip codes within each one of my customers? So using the software, we can do a lot of different data cleansings as well by running alerts and looking for specific things within the database, and then run a comparison against multiple different applications as well. So using that tool is just over and above the alerts, reports, and the workflow, but using it for a data cleansing as well. One of the things that we use, or I use a lot, is inactivity data, right? So we hire salespeople historically as account managers, but we look at them as highly incentivized to new customer ads, right? So if you look at any comp plan for any salesperson, they're always comped on the new customer ads, and a component of the maintenance and support, or some formula for the existing customer base. And so typically, if you look at a salesperson with 250, 350 accounts, they're dealing with the fires all day long. If something, squeaky wheels gets the grease, that's the call that comes in, that's what they're dealing with. Who's looking at the customers holistically? Let's let the software do that. Why don't we have the software say, show me which customers haven't been touched in the last 90 days. Show me which customers haven't placed an order with us in the last 60 days. Show me, those type of things. So if you think of your customer base and what's going on, what are the things that you'd want to know? Maybe the buying habits have changed. Today's orders come in, today's orders from that client has items of, these SKU numbers with this quantity associated with it. Run a comparison of that order against historics of the last 12 months of that client and tell me if it's greater or less than 10%. Sometimes customers continue to buy, but the quantities go down, and no one's really noticing. Why don't we call that type of thing out to the salesperson? Hey, the SKU number that client has historically bought, they've always bought 30. The last order, they only bought 20. Perhaps it's a call to action for the salesperson to call the client and say, hey, what's changed in your buying habits? Or the other option, they've gone to 60 different SKU items, or 60 different items that they've added to it. Again, what's changed in the buying habits of that client? Maybe maybe there was an acquisition, maybe they added a new product line, what have you. But it's those types of little nuggets that help out salespeople and help out that customer experience you have, because you're being proactive, looking at what's going on within your customer base, your already established customer base. Who's not had a quote? Who's not moved an item? Who's not done, what's changed? When was the last time we ever contacted the CFO of that customer? We've always been dealing with this person who does the daily transaction, but when was the last time we talked to the C-level staff of our customers and just did a head check and make sure that they're comfortable with what our products are doing for them, and what is their vision for their future too? We can use the software to look into Sage and say, hey, you haven't talked to the CEO of this company in over 2 years. Perhaps they don't even know who you are anymore, right? So those type of things for inactivity data is a great way to use Sage Alerts and Workflow to help out your salesperson be successful, because we know that we've got him comped on new customer ads and he's dealing with fires all day long. So using the software to take care of his other 250, 350 customers, it's certainly helps them be successful, and it helps your company be successful. And then anytime, anywhere alerts. When we ship the software for Sage ERP or HRMS, FAS, CRM, it's going to come with a predefined event pack from 600 or 65 events to 80 events. So these are pretty much best practices events that over the course of 22 years have been established and created from input from customers like yourselves and partners like Oasis, and saying, hey, the customer wants to do this. So those become part of the event pack that you're going to get. And that event pack, you start setting it up and you're going to start triggering your events out. And those events could come to you daily, they could come to you weekly, but there's going to be 2 or 3 events that you're going to start to rely on. And that may be day end sales, depending on where you are in the corporate structure. It could be, what's my AR status? Some of those things you want to know up to 5 o'clock. Some of those things you want to have come to you to your personal email. Some of those ones you want to come to you when you're on PTO. And so you can allocate which event is being delivered to you. And you really can drive everyone crazy by having events coming out of your system all day long. So you want to be, cognizant of when they're coming to them and what information they want. So if it's your finance, I want to know my AR status and my day-end sales that are coming to me from the sales manager. those are the only two alerts, whether I'm on PTO or whether I'm on, holidays or the weekends. Those are the type of information. So you can take these alerts, as I say, 65 to 80 on depending which application you connect to, and have them segregated by which time they're delivered to and who are they delivered to. So you can have them as an individual alert, again, a group alert. You can include your customers or your vendors in these alerts, so that you're sharing as much information about the customer experience with everybody. So think about what type of information that you're generating, and who would want to have it, and when would you want to have that. And then triggered updates. Something happens, I need to do this. Something happens and it didn't happen, and the whole world fell apart. Something's just catastrophically missed. We didn't have a part, so we couldn't ship something. We didn't have a truck called. We missed the window of opportunity to get the shipment to the cross dock. All these things that we're dealing with on a daily basis. These are triggered events that we want to call out and make sure that people are aware. So think of us in that analogy of a smoke detector for your business. We're sitting there monitoring everything in your enterprise, and when something goes out of whack, immediately we're calling out to you. We're sending that information out to the appropriate people that you need to be aware of it. A client has become overdue, and we've fallen below a minimum level in our inventory of product that we purchase, and there's no outstanding purchase order to replenish that inventory. We know that the average delivery time of the recipient of that product against that invoice is 60 days. So what have we just put into jeopardy? Let's send an alert out. Let's have a report that's due to that. If an item hasn't sold in the last 90, 60, 30 days, maybe we want to review who's the candidate, whose customers are the right recipients of that product, right? So maybe I've got, I don't know, 1,000 widgets sitting on my shelves, and they've been sitting there for over 90 days. And so it's really just dead cash to me. And I only have 3 customers actually use that widget. Maybe we got to find a way to get those customers to buy them faster. Maybe it's a price point break, maybe it's a discount for quantity or what have you, but we can analyze the data, looking at it, knowing where we're coming for these triggered events. So think about what happens in your business, that something, timestamp, price point, date stamp, what have you, is about to happen, and who needs to know about it. We're all dealing with expired quotes. Sometimes companies are not producing quotes that last for 60, 90, 120 days sort of idea, because we don't know the cost of goods coming in or the landed cost of things that we need to build whatever we're building. And so quotes only have an expiry date after 7 days or 14 days sort of idea. Maybe you want to have a list of, show me the sales manager, show me all the quotes that expired last week, or show me all the quotes that are going to expire this week, right? So maybe I can be a little proactive and call those people, or have my sales team call those people and say, hey, let's do this. Let's get this going, because the next quote's going to be more expensive. So those are the types of things that trigger updates to the appropriate people within your organization to move that data. And again, this comes from your HRMS, your CRM, your FAS system, your ERP. So anywhere that you have data trapped, we can utilize to better educate your team. Oops, I think I passed one. So how does Sage Alerts and Workflow work? So we monitor them. Sage Alerts and Workflow can be deployed in a perpetual model, client server. So for our customers who are still in that model, absolutely. For our customers who have moved to a cloud solution or a hosted solution, we can address that too. We're built on both an Azure platform, so we can deliver it that way, and we can go from cloud to desktop, or we can deliver from the desktop as well. So we monitor different things. We monitor different cloud apps. So not only the Sage cloud apps, but maybe there's other cloud apps that you want to be monitored, like Indeed or Monkey or Survey Monkey and that sort of idea. Or there's different cloud apps that you want us to connect to through a REST API to capture data that you need to update. And it could be things like price comparisons or the dollar value against the US buck, against the British pound or the Canadian dollar. So those type of things that we can call on in different apps. On-premise apps, so you have different things within your cycle of business, right? Within your organization, you have your ERPs, but again, you may have different SQL databases that we can access through ODBC. You may have different apps within your printer where you want to send your picking list down to different printers within your organizations through a REST API, and those printers may not even be in your building, they could be somewhere else. We're monitoring different websites, and we monitor incoming emails. So incoming email is important because a lot of our customers are doing this, and maybe you're in this scenario where you have on your website help at, info at, support at, those type of call outs for different people within your organization that something happened. Maybe we want to look for keywords like customer down or emergency or what have you. There's something specific that triggers your service level agreements within your organizations to react faster, right? Let's make sure if incoming emails contain any of those words that we're monitoring the system to look for them. And who do we notify, right? So if I want to have information about your businesses and I go to your website and I select and send me more info, does that sit for 12 hours? Does it sit for 4 hours? Right? If I'm a consumer looking for something and I don't, no one responds back to me, I've moved on. So we want to make sure that anything that's sales related gets notified or gets hierarchy to the sales manager or the salesperson of that territory. And sometimes what customers want to do is take that same information and put it up on a monitor within the sales organization, within the shipping, whatever that data resides to, or the support department. So as it's coming in, it becomes a visual for everyone to see. So that's webcasting. So we can take all this information that we're collecting and webcast it out. So it can be a pop-up on your desktop as an email. It can be an SMS, or as a text message. So there's all kinds of different ways to communicate that incoming email if there's something that needs to be dealt with. And we notify. So now you've created those alerts. We created our SSRS or our crystal report. I want to email it to you. Well, most people don't sit at their desk anymore. So getting an email will be responded to at 4:30 tonight, and it may be too late. So maybe I want to send you a text message. So I'll take that same data and I'll send it to you as a text because I know you've got your phone in your hand. And I know that sometimes the people out on the shop floor, you have workers that are mobile or outside the office, they will always have their phone with them. So we can use these alerts to send as a text message out to them using a text provider. And then again, from FTP sites and secured FTP sites. So a lot of people want to transfer data. So I've created this data, and this comes more in mergers and acquisitions. I just want to create the alert, put it in this FTP site and upload it to another database because we're dissimilar systems, if you will. And then modifying all different, like WhatsApp, and that's different communication protocols. We deliver forms, and any form that you can create within the Sage products, be it invoices, PO statements, timesheets, whatever, can be delivered to these to anyone. And so if you have things from regional workers, seasonal workers who want to have timesheets delivered to them, or they want to have time off, or some sort of notifications, we can deliver that to them based on a trigger event, if you will. The reports, SSRS, Crystal reports, and all third-party reporting tools that wrap around the Sage products. And sometimes people don't want the data. Sometimes people just want a visual. It's green or it's red or it's orange. Send me a graph or a chart of what is my day end sales. Am I up or down? What is my shipments for the day? What was my AR status for the day? I can get those to you in a visual format. So you just have to look at your phone and you go, okay, everything's green. We can go back to doing what we need to do, or everything's red. We better hunker down and drill down into this. So there's all kinds of things of delivering that message. Doesn't have to be in print. It can be in a graphic form. And then update different databases because we look at it holistically. When you get Sage Alerts and Workflow, you're going to get it as a connection. So it's connected to the application, to the database, if you will. We can look at multiple databases simultaneously. So you're not looking at 4 different places to have data. We bring them all in and holistically deliver that message to you on your dashboard, if you will, or on your desktop, so that you can see what's going on in all different places of your system. So finally, the user interface for the application, it's installed with the Sage product. So it's sitting on the server or sitting in the cloud or sitting in the hosted the provider with the application. It's set up, as I say, 65 to 80 different events that are going to be associated with it. It's a set it and forget it. So once it's set up, you can have these alerts delivered to anyone. There is no body count or head count on the amount of recipients of these alerts. You can have one person set up the alert, your IT person, your partner Oasis set those up for you, get them tested, get the emails associated with it, get everything in place, and run those events. So it's all browser based, and they can take care of that. The architecture is relatively simple. It's built on SQL, it's .NET, it's under IIS. All those cool things that are relevant today. Some of you may be aware that Microsoft is continuing to change things. Right now they're doing authentication for 2-level authentication. So we want to make sure that, when we get these solutions from Sage that are called endorsed solutions, because anything that you see out there that's branded with the name Sage has been endorsed or approved by Sage, meaning that before you get the general release of their product, these products have all been tested with the product. We get it in an above beta before it goes to GA so that we can test our solutions. So everything is in play before, so when you get it, it's working. I won't go through this because you are getting the presentation, but just the different feature sets that you get with the current version of the software. And as I say, it can be deployed in desktop subscription models out there. It has a REST API layer. It has both REST API, JSON, and it has an XML layer. So that allows you to connect to any different types of websites or data sources that you need to connect to along the way that you need to run your business. So there's another avenue of using the application. It looks at different databases. When it's set up, we can look at cloud, we can look at desktops, we can look at databases and holistically look at all that information. So running reports, we can aggregate data from multiple solutions and run a singular report. We can create an action in one database and that affects another database. So we need to update this information in the CRM or update this information in the HRMS from the ERP solution. So it becomes very powerful as a tool for, again, synchronizing your data, to cleanse your data, to connect to all the different applications moving forward. And so if you determine in the last few minutes here, when I talked about this thing, if you determine that you could benefit from Sage Alerts for it, can you afford it? Really, what does it look like, right? So let's be ultra conservative in your employees. If you have one person in your team that's spending 15 minutes a day over the course of a month who's doing any of those, they're running reports, they're checking things, they're doing what have you. Let's say that saves you $175 a month, right? That's what our cost is. Sage Alerts and Workflow starts in a subscription model at $120 a month. So you get all those alerts, 65 to 80 different alerts that are associated with the application immediately up and running, download and go. $120 a month. If you want to start sending out crystal reports and SSRS reports, because those are attachments, so those are invoices or statements or charts and that sort of idea, it's an additional $95 a month. If you want to have workflow where you're, if this happens, then do that kind of thing, it's an additional $95 a month. If you want to monitor your ERP, your CRM, your HRMS, perhaps you want to monitor Inventory Advisor or Scanco products along the way too. Each connection is an additional $95. Once you get to 4 connections, so that's the original $120 connection plus 3 $95 connections, you turn to an unlimited license. If you have multiple Sage products like FAS and CRM and HRMS and ERP, it's just logical to have an unlimited license to get going with. If you have other databases that you want, there is a bit of a discount if you buy an unlimited license at the beginning, but you can continually add these modules until you get to 4. Once you get to 4, you become unlimited, so you can connect to anything. A lot of people in Sage 100 space will have multiple companies under one application, and that's okay. We don't look at it as multiple companies, we look at it as one application. So that does come up in the way that the system is configured, if you will. So it becomes very cost effective in your business process that you will get one of those 65 to 80 different events will cover your butt one day. The ROIs within 90 days of something that's affected your business and we've called out and we've told you about from a customer experience point of view. So if you think of, what's a quick win for our business, what's a quick win for the end of the year, we've got some budget money left over, let's put this in now, let's get to Oasis and get us connected and moving forward with it. How do I talk about a little bit further is on alertsandworkflow.com, you're going to find all kinds of different documentation about the product. Here shortly, by the end of the day, we're going to have an updated software 10.5 coming out. And that, again, talks about 2-level authentication from Microsoft 365. But here's all the downloads of software. There's support documents, context information, the video about how it works sort of idea. If this is a great place to start to get the information. This is also a great place to download the software. So for everybody who's on the call and is going to listen to this call in the future, I encourage you to go to the website, download the software, install it on your system. It comes with a 30-day license free of charge. Get it up and running. You're not going to get all the events up and running, but pick three meaningful ones, get it up and running in your system and run it for 30 days and see the value for yourself. Work with your partner Oasis to get that happening. And then we'll have that conversation about something bigger, if you will. Additionally, from the Oasis point of view is communicate with them on getting me or my sales engineers connected with you specifically. This talk is relatively, broad because we've got different sectors of businesses on here. So we want to make sure that we talk to you specifically about your business needs. And so I'll leave you with this. A system of actual insight is the best means by which you can increase responsiveness of your organization and differentiate yourself from your competitors. So that's my contact information there. And I'm just going to flip over to Garen's information as well, because this is where you're going to start with to learn about the product, to get it into your system, and also to schedule. If you want to talk about specifically your business needs, what you're dealing with, the way that you're set up, what are some of the goals and objectives that you're looking for to get out of the software, start here. She'll coordinate it with me and I'll coordinate with my SEs, and we'll get something scheduled with you. So with that, all of that, Karen, I'll turn it back to you.
All right. Well, we appreciate all of you attending the webinar today. We will be sending out a recording, and as Greg said, if you have any questions, just feel free to reach out to me. Thanks a lot.
Thanks very much, people. Have a great day.